Hello folks, this is Steve A. for you. Nothing in this episode is a promotion nor is a recommendation. There's been a change in the way I'm using Google search lately. And I thought to do this video because of something I just read on Bleeping Computer. Now, there's a project called Chromium, open source. It's at Google, and the Chrome browser is based on that. The Edge browser is based on that. The Opera browser is based on that. They take the kernel and they make their top of the birthday cake modifications so that the browsers do special things that for a certain audience. Opera wants you to pay $19.90 per month for its new AI browser. Perplexity Comet is already doing pretty well as the first AI-powered browsers. And Microsoft Edge is also joining the race with the Copilot mode. Opera describes Neon as a browser built to act. It'll do tasks for you, open websites for you, manage tabs for you, listen to you. The idea behind these agentic browsers is to put AI in control. All right. About a month ago, I had a pretty complex problem I needed to solve. And I put a long sentence into the Google search. And it was just on an impulse. And I was a little surprised by what the AI overview did in response. Now I'm going to kind of do a simpler version. In the other room, I have a machine that I built to have two Linux on, Sparky Linux and Manjaro Linux. Now, it doesn't matter. Manjaro Linux. The Linux for people and organizations. This page provides an overview of Manjaro, open source operating system designed for ease of use, learning, blah, blah, blah. It's an Arch-based browser. That's a particular strain of Linux. Sparky, Linux, one word, is out of Poland. Sparky Linux is a GNU Linux distribution based on Debian GNU Linux operating system. Sparky is a fast, lightweight, and customizable operating system. Now, it doesn't cost anything to download them. And the point about these is they actually are based on two different strains of customization of the Linux kernel. See, there's the Chromium browser project, and then you put top layers on it and make your own customized kind of browser. Same thing with the Linux. There's the core Linux kernel, and then you do other things that make it unique in a certain operational direction. And the reason why I went to these two definitions is so that you understand that the kernel down underneath deep is essentially the same, but how you interact with them, the tools and what they're offering really looks different. There's an app that's been around a long time, AVI Demux, that I use on a daily basis in my YouTube video work. When I bring in the micro SD card, for instance, from the windshield recorder in my car, how do I pick out the part of the recording I want to put in the video? The easiest way to trim it out is to use AVI Demux. Is a free video editor designed for simple cutting, filtering, and encoding tasks, and I use it for trimming. And this style of web page for AVI Demux has been around since I started using it 20 years ago. You see what the picture is there on the web browser? Okay, now, there are Linux versions of AVI Demux. But there's something that's been happening over the last few years. Flatpak, the future of application distribution. Sometimes, in order to get an application on Linux, you have to load up a whole bunch of other tools first. And then it compiles it and gives you the finished product. What if I wanted to use a snap-in version? Now, by the way, I have to be careful. Snap on Linux. Installing Snap on Linux I know you say Linux, I say Linux. Mint forums, how to install Snap, setting up my first Linux installation ever. I'd like to install What's Desk, and there it is, snap.io. Then you go sudo apt install what desk, unable to locate package. It's another system of getting containerized applications all finished, and just 1, 2, 3, bang, they're on your Linux distribution, and you can use them, even though they're not native to that flavor of Linux distribution. Now, I know I'm wandering. A Linux distribution, or distro is a complete operating system built on top of the Linux kernel, bundling the kernel with various software, desktop environments, and tools to meet specific user needs. Unlike Windows, where there's one main version, the open source nature of Linux allows for numerous customized distributions such as Ubuntu, Mint, Arch, Linux, I just mentioned, each offering unique interfaces, package managers, features. In other words, it's like learning 6 or 7 different foreign languages in order to use, oh, this Linux is better for this Linux is better for that. But when you go from this one to that one, they don't look the same. They don't have the same tools. They don't update the same way. Distro Watch. One of my favorite websites. Hang on. Oh, there it is, but it's on the left side. Are they going to let me move it over? What's the matter with this web page? Why isn't there a scroll on the left side? All right, look over here look above my head. If I want to know how a certain Linux distribution has been moving with respect to users downloading it, there's an up green arrow, a red down arrow, and there's a black bar, which means pretty much even. So a new one that's been talked up a lot, and I tried it and I don't like it, Catchy OS. In the last 6 months, the rating is 4,000. Then there's Mint. We already mentioned that. Then there's MX Linux, Debian, Endeavor OS, Pop OS. I've tried all of these. Manjaro, I just mentioned that. Ubuntu, Fedora, Zorn, OpenSUSE, Novara, I haven't used that one, NixOS, Bluestar, Elementary, KDE, keep going, Ubuntu Mate. How many do you think there were in that list? 50? And each one is a project where they do it their way. Some of them will take something like Ubuntu, and then you've got Ubuntu Studio, Ubuntu Mate. And you notice they're way down the bottom of the list. Xbuntu, Lubuntu, and then there's Kubuntu. You get the idea? Now, why did I go through this? Because I'm telling you, every time you got on a different flavor, when you want to use a tool such as AVI Demux, you may have to stand on your head to figure out how to install it, because it's not a part of the basic installation. So, you go to Google. How do I install Flatpak on, now you can see it, Flatpak on Linux, Arch Linux, Chromebook, Debian, Steam Deck, Linux Mint, Fedora. It's anticipating that the search engine's anticipating that I'm going to name a Linux distribution. Sparky Linux, and then install AVI demux Flatpak. Now, did you notice what I did, what my request is? How do I install Flatpak, which is like a holder or a launching pad, on a specific kind of Linux distro? And then I'm asking how to bring another application that I know is in Flatpak version and install that using Flatpak. Now let's see what AI Overview does for us. This is not a promotion. This is what I have been doing lately as I see the AI Overview capabilities mature. Now, it turns out that Sparky Linux Forum in 2019 tells me how to set it up, and flatpak.org setup, quick setup, select your distro to get set up. Ubuntu, Fedora, Manjaro, Endless OS, Alt, Linux, Chrome, OS, ... In the old days when I would do a search, I would probably keep it shorter. I would first ask about Flatpak, and then I would go back and see if I could then see how to ask the search engine how to do it on. But let's see what happens with AI Overview. To install Flatpak on Sparky Linux, open the terminal and run the sudo apt install Flatpak. Then restart your system. Notice it tells me you have to restart your system to integrate, meaning to integrate this Flatpak at the system kernel level. It's not just something that you run on your desktop. It's more intimately connected than that. After restarting, you can install AVI demux by adding the flat hub, not Flatpak, flat hub repository. If it's not already added, use Flatpak remote add if not exist, and look at what they do. They actually give me a link or a command, and then installing the application using well, what they don't say is you have to be the super user, root. Then what you do after you install Flatpak, by the way they said to do it, APT, which is the software update and installing system, install, which there's install and there's upgrade. There's also refresh. Think about what those mean in terms of just updating Windows. So that suggests that in the repository of applications for Sparky Linux, they know about the widget called Flatpak that will become a part of the system kernel once you install it. That's why you have to restart. You know, you've noticed sometimes that when you do certain kinds of security updates on Windows every month, you do them every month, don't you? Have you noticed that there's a part of the update where it has to restart the system? Have you noticed that when you do the update on your browsers, that it requires them to relaunch the browsers? So, they tell me that on Sparky Linux, I can open the command by Control-Alt-T, T is for terminal, or finding it in the application menu, and then I'm sudo superuser-do, you have to know the password, apt install Flatpak, press S and enter when prompted to confirm the installation, restart your computer to restart. Now wait a minute. Add the Flatpak repository if needed. The command below adds the official FlatHub repository. Notice it's a different name if it's not already configured on your system. Flatpak remote-add if not exist FlatHub, and then you go https://. In the old days, I would have to keep searching to find each of these steps in a separate article that somebody asked a question. How do you do this? How do you do that? And I hope that the search engine would lock onto a question that is close to what I need, and they were able to figure out the answer correctly. But notice what happens. It's paying attention to the rest of my question. Install AVID-MUX. Now you can install notice how it's talking to me. Now you can install AVID-MUX from FlatHub once you tell the Flatpak which source of Flatpaks you're interested in searching to get things from. Does that imply there may be more than one? Better be careful which one you're designating. Now you can install AVID-MUX from FlatHub using the following command. And again, you have to have the terminal. That's what bash means. But you don't have to be super user, apparently. Flatpak install flathub avidmux.org. They're giving the name of the here AVID-MUX is on ./sourceforge.net, but it actually has a home page, and the last time something was updated on this particular thing was in 2022. There's something called avidmux.org. avidmux.org/nightly. And then here are all the subsystems of the software. If you know how to navigate this, folks. Now let's get back to how the AI overview is really helping me out and why I want to use a Flatpak and avoid having to go get something that's try to figure out where I can get the latest version of the regular download of binaries, where there may be other things that I have to also install, and they have to be the right version, minimum version. And I wanted to explain to you, show you, I did that wrong. org. This is the reverse of a URL. They have their style. And then you confirm with pressing an S and enter, and then the way you run it Now you can launch AVI-Demux from your application menu. So it already knows not only how to download it, how to integrate it, but how to, over on Linux, when you click in the left lower right-hand corner, and there's like 100 different applications that are categorized, it will be under the video category. It will have integrated it into, it knows how to do it. Or, instead of clicking on it, with your mouse, you can open a terminal and say Flatpak run, not install, run, but you have to use that full name, which is how it is looked up on the software repository on your Linux computer, which is nothing like it is on Windows. Now, having bored you with that, what was the other Linux distribution I was interested in? Manjaro. Now, all I'm going to do in change the search with Google is one word, Manjaro. Is it going to give me exactly the same instructions, or is it going to give me a set of tailored instructions? To install Flatpak on Manjaro Linux, first, and notice that they bold it, enable it in your software manager's preferences under the Flatpak tab. You see, on the other one, I had to alert the system about Flatpak, but on this Linux distribution, it already knows about it and has a convenient way for me to activate that as a potential software resource when I go to update something or try to install something. It then adds it to the search path, which is not the way the other Linux did it. Under your software manager's preferences, which is in the menu system, under the Flatpak tab, then restart your system. Yes, that's the same, and for the same reason, because it now is integrated into the kernel at a certain privilege level. To complete the setup, to install AVI-Demux, open the terminal and run. Now it's the same command. Flatpak install flathub org.avi-demux, and then to launch it, it's Flatpak run. Now, they were able to summarize it in one sentence, but they've laid out those a little more spaced out, and they've emphasized certain things to make sure you understand what the target is. And notice here it says slide the toggle to enable Flatpak. So there's a menu with system level menu on your desktop that when you go in there, you have to find the Flatpak tab. And once you're in the tab, you have to slide the particular activating switch. Then you restart your system, and then they show me a video. This video shows to install Flatpak and Flatpak Hub on Manjaro. So, unlike the other one, it already knows that somebody put a video up there on YouTube. And the
If you want to see it all, you need a car that...
It's a install FlatHub and Flatpak on Manjaro, OS College, OS-College.
Use Microsoft Office.
Maybe I just found something that I want.
Perhaps you use one of the many Linux distros.
Flash operating system from URL Berliner Etcher Flash and operating system. Now that's for preparing for installations. But look at what kind of resources I'm immediately directed to by AI Overview. And if the quick instructions weren't good enough, here's you just copy and paste, copy and paste. It wasn't this way a year ago. It wasn't like this a year ago. In the past, I've made some criticisms of the AI overview. And what I'm now telling the world, and you who are watching, is how much it has matured, how much detail it actually has. And it learns from other people having asked these questions maybe 100 times over, and it can prioritize how it should build its knowledge base and refine it. Because one of the problems that I used to have before this advent was that when you did a search, it usually took you to one of the major technical discussion groups that have been going on for years, and they might give you 5 or 6 different article links spanning a 5-year period. And it was for you to read through and see if in the verbiage there was an answer that would fit your situation, including something like this. Because I remember the first time I heard about Flatpak and wanted to figure out how to install it. But now it's fully integrated into these Linux distributions, but in 2 different ways. And the AI overview is not generic for each one. You get the same answer for both. In speaking in generalities, it's highly specific. Now, I'll just change this to Ubuntu. Sudo app install GNOME software plugin Flatpak. It's a different system. Got it? This is how to do it on Ubuntu. Now, let's use as a key thing, hang on, this phrase right here. Install GNOME software plugin Flatpak. That's a clue. Now watch what I do. I just add an L to the front of Ubuntu to Lubuntu. Results for how and what did they do? You see what they just did? Search only for how I do install Flatpak on Lubuntu. To install Flatpak on Lubuntu, open the terminal and run. And yes, it is the same one. And what they're telling you is the frosting on the cake, Lubuntu versus Ubuntu, is trivial for this particular technical need. They are at the kernel level the same, and therefore the instructions will actually be the same, although they may say Lubuntu rather than Ubuntu, so as not to confuse you. They're catering to the fact that you're a brain-dead human. Now, pardon me for going on. Now, I'm going to try something that I haven't tried before. Wait a minute. Distro watch. I was at that page before. And on the right-hand side was the big list. Can I pick out one that I think might be really different, that I can't guess? Like if you choose something like Ghost BSD is another kind of Linux distribution from the very beginning. If I go for Peppermint, that's the same as Mint. If I go way down the list to one I've never, what's this one here called? Watt OS. It's based on Debian. Using lightweight OpenBox window manager as its default user interface, the distribution strives as an energy efficient as possible so that it can be used on low specification and recycled computers. But it's on a Debian. So let's see if I can trip it. WATTOS. I've changed nothing else. Now look at what it says. Because Watt OS is based on Debian, installing Flatpak and then AVI demux is a straightforward process using the apt command. In other words, it's what we've already gone over. And I didn't fool it. But notice what it says. This is now sophisticated enough that it says, essentially, this is Debian. Flatpak is at the kernel level. It's got nothing to do with the frosting on the cake. See, I'm repeating myself. So in fact, if you were to go through a series of Linux distributions, because you want to try different ones out, it's actually telling you something fairly sophisticated as to why it knows how to do it. Only this instruction is a little different. Actually, it's more correct. First, you go into the super user mode, you sudo apt update, you make sure all of the software on your computer is actually up to the latest levels. And there are only a few thousand different modules. And it may be to put the Flatpak in at the kernel level, it's important that that all of the things that it depends on at kernel level are in fact up to date. Especially there's been some important lately updates like that. Then it uses sudo apt install Flatpak. You have to tell it where the flat hub repository. Notice it didn't tell you to restart the computer. Did you catch that? Did you catch that it didn't tell you to reboot the computer? Then you have to know where the flat hub repository is. You have to register it like you did in all the other examples. And then the command for the Flatpak install is the same on all of them. And then if you want to run it on Watt OS, these instructions are the same as we've seen before. All right, now I've kind of belabored this. It's been more than 30 years since Linux was introduced by Linus Torvalds. And as I've said in a video just a couple of years back, I began with Linux with the very first release. All the way back then, yes. but I'm still mainly a Windows user. Because as powerful as Linux is for certain kinds of things, like they're the backbone of almost all the servers on the internet. Yeah, the operating system that most websites and business sites and so on use is Linux based, not Windows. Yes, there are some based on the Windows version, but no, it's like 80-90% is based on the Linux. But there's no desktop, there's no applications, there's none of the browsers. It's the engine that takes care of dealing with strict software request send, update. It is, and there's no sit in front of it user interface the way you do with Windows or Mac OS. Or all these children that think they're different flavors of Linux and they want to show you how impressive their brains are when they put the frosting on the cake. Okay? So this is a complement to the maturation of AI Overview on Google Search. In the context of my last week's effort to build 2 different computers, one with 2 Linux distributions and another with 4 different ones, and build up a repository of certain kinds of apps so that I could decide which one I might want to, use as a remote computer for some of my rendering of videos. Steve AB4 is letting his mind wander. Just mentioning the fact that I've been using a Linux in one form or another for more than 30 years. Yeah, I started in 1983, and it was way before that was even before that was a little more than 10 years before the inspiration in Trevor's mind for a new operating system. Steve AB4 just running his mouth. Ta-da! Saints, I hope this helps you simplify certain kinds of technical, complicated tasks. Give it a long prompt. Make it a complex request. String several parts together. See what the AI overview is able to do for you to make it all more coherent and understandable, whether it's this task or one that you need. Steve AB4 just an idiot running his mouth, saying see you in 73.